am ready. Oh, wait. Before. I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you, guess what I have?
What?
I have Go Ask Miles.
Oh, cool.
I have not read it yet. I'm planning to start it tonight. It just came in the mail. I put a notification on eBay that anytime that book came up for sale to notify me.
Mm-hmm.
And last week it came up and it was $22. And I was like, yep.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to ever find it cheaper than that.
It's funny because somebody posted in one of the Buffy groups, is just like, has anybody read this book? I found it at a charity shop for 50p. And everybody was just like, you suck. Welcome to Flunking the Written, a fully spoiled Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast in which two Uber fans break down every episode of the show. Join Kimberly and Megan every other Tuesday as they overanalyze each scene and discuss the Buffyverse at large. Now let's meet up with the Scoobies and get into this episode of Flunking the Written.
What can I say? I flunked the written.
All right, Kim, we're ready to start our conversation on Consequences, which was written by Marty Noxon and directed by Michael Gershman. And the DVD blurb is, as detectives investigate the death of Deputy Mayor Finch, Faith's continued denial of any wrongdoing convinces Angel he must help her see the error of her ways. So I'll have a lot to say when we get to the scene where Angel is convincing her that.
Yeah.
Because that's not how I took that scene.
Yeah, I've got lots to say too about lots of stuff.
This is basically the episode where I'll just repeatedly say, I'm disappointed in everybody. I'm upset about everything.
Yeah, nobody really does anything right in this.
No. We start off in a dream with Buffy underwater, frantically trying to get to the surface. And when she gets to the surface, we see Faith there, who shoves her back underwater, and Buffy wakes up. It's, weird, because we know, like, the symbolism of what drowning specifically means to Buffy, and then we had the moment in Bad Girls where she was kind of underwater, and that, like, invigorated her, but now her nightmares are surrounding not only being drowned, but being drowned specifically by Faith, which is putting a lot of, like, Buffy's subconscious is putting a lot of the blame on Faith here. But it could be prophetic because of the turn and the ideas that, you know, they're going to face off against each other. Slayer dreams are weird. But she decides to get up and kind of roam through her house. She hears the news from her mother's, I guess it's her, is it her bedroom or does she go downstairs? I don't actually know.
I think it's her bedroom.
I think it's a little, I didn't realize Joyce had a little TV in her bedroom and watched late news.
It didn't show Buffy go downstairs, and it didn't look like the setup for the living room.
It didn't look right because she was behind her. Anyway, the news is making a big deal because the body of the deputy mayor has been discovered. And the mayor himself is talking about it, and Joyce turns back to Buffy and it's just like, oh, it's just terrible, isn't it? I was just like, Joyce.
Yeah.
Joyce.
Like, you think that's terrible? Like, out of all the things that have happened, that's the terrible thing.
Don't start Moo up again. We don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an odd cold open.
It really is.
There's a lot of odd stuff about this. I feel like this is, even though it's not technically a two-parter, this is definitely the weaker of the two parts of this particular story arc. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then we have everyone in the library, and Wesley is saying that he wants the girls to look the Slayers into the murder of the deputy mayor, and Buffy's like, well, it's not really our area, is it? And Faith is acting very unfaith-like and is like, no, we can do it if he wants to, which is completely out of character that she's just like volunteering to do something. Then Giles agrees with Buffy, and Wesley's like, no, I think we should. Giles says, if you ask me, no. And Wesley's like, no, didn't ask you. Then Cordelia comes in, and is needing a book for a psych class, and Cordelia and Wesley see each other for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they are both very interested.
Yes.
Very interested.
Not my favorite of storylines that it had some funny jokes later on, considering how connected these two become, but it's not my favorite bit at the beginning to have this weird, attraction between these two characters. But
Yeah.
it's mostly played in a way that.
Well, and the two characters, like the two actors, do it really well because they have really good chemistry until that last episode, and then it just disappears.
Yeah.
And so they do that really well, even if it is an odd.
Yeah.
But Wesley thinks that Cordelia is a teacher. Mm-hmm. And then Giles walks by and says she's a student. And Faith says, first word jail, second word bait.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a nice little funny interruption.
Yeah. Cordelia, unfortunately, for a patch, just kind of serves as the let's bring her in for a little comic relief, and then she's gone again.
Yeah.
Which she's barely in this episode, and Oz isn't in this episode at all, is he?
No. There's a lot of that, episodes that Oz just doesn't show up in.
Yeah.
And then others that he's just got like one little scene. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Wesley is like, yeah, I'm resolved. You need to investigate this. And Faith and Buffy go to an empty classroom, of which there's always multiple ones at Sunnydale High. Mm-hmm. Probably because all the people who've been killed. And they start talking about what happened, and Faith is worried Buffy's going to rat her out. And Buffy's like, yeah, you got to tell somebody. And they just kind of go back and forth with that. And then Buffy's like, Faith, what we did. And Faith interrupts and said, yeah, you were right there with me. Mm-hmm. Which I kind of, yeah, she was.
Yeah.
And I realized that the consequences are different because Buffy wasn't trying to hide it and everything. But Buffy was there. Like, it was kind of her fault too.
Well, and the thing that I think gets lost a little bit is that what they're trying to say is it's the acknowledgement that's the difference. But
yeah,
they're so accusatory, and especially starting with that opening dream where Buffy is dreaming about being drowned by Faith. You can see that Faith is getting the finger pointed at her, right? Like, Buffy, as good intentioned as she is very much, this is your fault to a degree. Like, her subconscious is telling her that, and she's just kind of got that superiority going on a little bit there. But the acknowledgement is what some of the episode is trying to say is the difference, right? Is that Buffy is acknowledging what happened and, thinking about it of the weight and gravity that it actually has, whereas Faith's just trying to brush it off and say it's no big deal. But unfortunately, it also kind of comes off at times where it's just like, Buffy's not at fault at all, and Faith has all of the consequences. And I'm just like, I don't like that. There's also a through line of jail, right?
Yeah,
they're going to go to
jail.
And she's just like, I'm going to go to jail for the rest of my young life. And like, this is something that I'll come back to again and again. But I'm just like, we know through the context of the show and just understanding the power of the Slayer that a jail can't hold a Slayer. So I don't know why this is so like beaten over our heads over and over again. Because I feel like even at this point, you'd be like, what? Like maybe the Watchers Council could come up with something. But like just a regular standard jail, I don't know what they have that would be standard issue that would actually hold a Slayer.
Yeah, well, and we find out like a little bit later in this episode that they don't even usually do anything when this happens. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Watchers Council continues to not make sense in this episode. That has been consistent. So after that interaction, Buffy goes back out into the hall and spots Willow and kind of goes up and starts to like kind of broach a conversation. Maybe just I guess feel out where she is with Willow and just a general like the weird falling out between Buffy and Willow in the previous episode, and then kind of carried into this episode, is just, I don't know if it's necessary. There's some good bits for Willow, little tiny nuggets, but Willow is also a character that I'm just kind of not crazy about in this episode, which is painful for me to say.
Well, I mean, she's just not really a part of it.
Mm-hmm. She's so... Yeah. I guess she's just so peripheral to everything that's going on. And,
But pretty much everyone in this episode is peripheral except for Faith, Angel, and Buffy in that order.
Yeah.
Nobody else really matters.
Yeah. It's just... This seems very a not Willow way to approach this, I guess. Is like, Willow doesn't strike me as the kind to hold a grudge in this way of like when Buffy's actually like coming up and being like, hey, and she's just like, well, where's Faith? Why aren't you with Faith right now? Aren't you just like... But I mean, I guess there is some pattern to that.
There's a reason. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think my biggest disconnect with this whole story arc is that at the beginning, Willow and Xander were this, and Buffy didn't want anything to do with Faith. And then Buffy and Faith bonded, and then Willow and Xander are like, you're spending too much time with Faith. And it's just like, you're weird. You guys gotta figure out a way to make your friend group not so dependent. You gotta be allowed to have other friends.
Yeah.
This is a little intense. But Michael exists, which is kind of cool. He's the warlock guy.
Yeah, they're gonna go see if they can de-rat Amy. Which we know does not work.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Michael was ever mentioned again, which is pretty funny.
I don't think he ever is again after this.
Yeah. Willow's branching out. She's got other friends. She's working on it. It's almost like, is that a drop? She's just like, I'm going to go hang out with Michael because you hang out with Faith.
Well, I think she has a right to be jealous in this one, I think. Buffy kind of like flaked on her a couple of times in the last episode.
Yeah.
But okay, then we go to the alley where the guy was killed, and the script actually says that it's Detective Paul Stein, and that he is the same policeman who investigated Buffy in Ted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I didn't notice that, but it's kind of some continuity. He has not been killed yet.
Yeah, that's crazy. But also, like, one of my notes in this is just like later on when we get to the kind of like interrogation scene where they're interviewing both of them. I'll have some stuff to say, and that adds even more to it. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So he is familiar with Buffy. Mm-hmm. So then he is in the alley, and he's questioning a lady, asking, when did you hear the man scream? I don't remember hearing the deputy mayor scream. Do you?
No.
Yeah. So Stein is saying, you heard the man scream what time last night? And the woman's like, I don't know, 7, maybe 8. And yeah, so they're interviewing. And then we see a tech or somebody scraping blood off the wall from, where he was stabbed. And then we see Angel lurking around watching. And then a little flashback memory to him seeing Buffy in that alley with blood on her hands.
Yeah.
Literal blood on her hands.
Yeah, I just put Detective Angel in all caps.
Yeah.
We're getting there. We're getting to Detective Angel. I'm so excited.
Deputy Mayor Allen didn't scream. So, I wonder who she heard scream. Yeah, so then after the flashback, we go to the mayor's office where the mayor is shredding documents. And
I love it.
It's not working.
It's supposed to do something besides shred?
It's supposed to cheer me up. Usually using the shredder gives me a lift. It's fun.
Which, I mean, we have a shredder for business documents and stuff, and it is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. I won't gonna lie, it's fun. We have to shred we're a private home. We have to shred 3 things a year, but it is fun.
Yeah.
And Mr. Trick said, today you're not getting the yayas. And the mayor starts wondering why Alan left such a paper trail, and was he going to betray me? And oh no, that now he's dead, and I'll never have the chance to scold him.
Oh God, it's so good.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons the mayor is so creepy. Is because he's just so wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
He's just so wholesome. Yeah, and it makes him creepier.
Yeah.
Then Mr. Trick drops a thing from like a medical examiner or the police or whatever that says that the deputy mayor had wooden splinters in his room and wound and was struck right through the heart with a sharp pointed object, and says that someone was fighting vampires not a block away. And the mayor says, "You think he talked to them?" And is like, "This is exciting. A Slayer up for murder 1." And now the mayor is happy.
Mm-hmm.
The shredding didn't do it, but that thought. Like, how does he think he's going to put a Slayer up for murder? Like, how does he think this is going to happen?
Well,
he is this huge demon force thingy that's been alive for like hundreds of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's never heard of a Slayer and the Watchers Council or anything, and knows the power behind the Slayer, and knows that there's no way he's going to be able to get one for murder.
Yeah, this is
it doesn't make sense.
This is my other big complaint about the gel through line is like, not only would a gel not be able to hold a Slayer, but the mayor should know that. And so the fact that they're like playing this angle of, oh, we got to get enough evidence on them, like you don't have the police in your pocket anyway and could just make stuff up in order to get arrested. But like, you know that you put a Slayer in jail, shit just gonna break out. So I thought maybe the whole angle was to just run them out of town, which was kind of gonna work with Faith. But then he decided, nah, let's just kill him at the end. It's not a good plan. It's just making it up as they go along, and none of it actually makes sense when you think about it. But yeah, if he did know enough, I don't know if he would know like how it's handled by the Watchers Council.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, if he knew how it was normally handled by the Watchers Council, that would excite him. But he doesn't seem to know a lot about the Watchers Council, so nor is the Watchers Council very capable of handling it anyway. So
yeah, they seem to. I think they mess things up worse than, well, probably the mayor would. Okay, so then we see Buffy and Faith in a room in City Hall looking at stuff. They're in Alan's office. And how did they get in? Like, how? How did they get in City Hall and into the office of someone who is part of a murder investigation? Like the victim in a murder investigation. They're in his office going through his files and stuff, which are gone because the mayor took them and was shredding them. And Buffy has a moment where they're talking about what happened. And he picks up a picture of the deputy mayor and the mayor at some kind of thing. And Faith kind of says he came out of nowhere. And Buffy's like, I know. And the second Buffy got sympathetic, Faith is like, gets all tough again, whatever. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of, Faith is not going to kind of process what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because she is not going to be vulnerable like that. And then Buffy goes with I think he was looking for us to tell us something. And basically heaps more and more guilt on Faith. Even though it's both their fault. Yeah. I don't like that scene because that is what Buffy does. I don't know if it's obviously it's unconscious, but that is what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, he was coming to us for help. He was going to tell us what was going on, and we killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of at several points, even though it was both of them, Buffy kind of insinuates that Faith alone is guilty.
Yeah.
Which honestly, it was an accident. They're
mm-hmm.
Slayers. It was an accident. But the way the way Buffy is acting, I just, and it's probably unconscious. I mean, it's unconscious. I don't think they meant for her to act that way.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's this gets muddier and muddier as the series goes on. But, like, this hard line of who you can kill with a guilt-free conscience and who you can't is just so arbitrary in the Buffyverse. Because we definitely, the line is, you can kill demons, but you can't kill humans, right? And maybe the idea is human laws versus demon laws. And you have the quote later on from Faith in this episode of "We are the law," and that's echoed much later on by Buffy saying "I am the law," meaning specifically when it comes to demons, right? She gets to be the judge, jury, executioner when it comes to demons. She can make that call. But in the human world, it's a different thing with its own systems and its own laws and requirements and expectations. And so, like, that's the, like, line that they've tried to draw in the mud. But then the problem is like, you have situations where you have, like, Warren and you have, like, Clem. And Clem's a much more likable guy than Warren is. And arguably way better and nicer.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the kitten poker thing, I haven't really seen anything.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I haven't really seen anything from Clem that makes me feel like, well, he's not good.
Well, as much sense as the kitten poker thing does not make, it's still funny.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but yeah, there's these lines that are drawn, and I mean, I don't think Faith is processing things, and I don't think she's emotionally capable of processing things right now. And I think that she is in shock and she is in denial, which are both stated in this episode. But I also don't think that she's in the wrong the way that a lot of the characters are kind of making her out to be. And the show's kind of like spinning this narrative of good Slayer, bad Slayer, when really, as Faith keeps... And I think that's the interesting back and forth between Faith and Buffy, is that they are very similar, and they could have easily swapped roles in that situation, where Buffy could have been the one to have accidentally killed him. Like, I mean, there's just, you know, there's easy ways to slip up, and on the front lines and everything, and the adrenaline pumping, I can't watch this episode and be like, oh yeah, Faith's the bad Slayer and Buffy's the good Slayer, which I like that they have that, to where it's not so, like, Faith just being like, "Mwahaha, I'm gonna be evil." But I think that they could have leaned into that even more and made it even more gray and not. It's just, it makes Buffy a lot less likable, and I really like Buffy, but I think this is not her best season for liking Buffy, because she does a lot of stuff where it's just like, ooh, Buffy, why you gotta be that way? Yeah, so anyway, they start to leave, but when they're out in the hall, they hear somebody else coming out of another office, so they duck back in, and they see that it's the mayor and Mr. Trick, and the mayor's just like, get as many men on it as you can, and they kind of walk away, and Buffy and Faith run outside and start talking about how the mayor of Sunnydale is a black hat, and Faith's like, that's a shocker, and Buffy's like, actually, yeah, didn't get the bad guy vibe off of him, which again is kind of the cool part of the mayor, is he's just so wholesome. But then Faith, in her general cynical attitude, is just like, you know, you gotta learn, B, the face they're showing is not their real one. And this I think is kind of acknowledging the fact that Buffy's more concerned about how Faith's reacting to what she did than what she did, or at least trying to lean into that a little bit more, where she's just like, well, you're wearing a face now too, because you're all zippity doo dah after what happened, and that's not your real face, and I know it. And Faith very much is shutting it down. Like, anytime somebody tries to get her to open up emotionally, she just kind of shuts it down, makes jokes and blows it off. But Buffy's talking about how, you know, she's feeling this same way that she knows Faith is feeling, and that she's feels dirty and like something sick creeped inside of her, and keep hoping it was just kind of a nightmare. And Faith's just like, is there going to be an intermission to this? So it's like, Faith is just like, you can tell she's on the brink of having these emotions at any time, and is just trying to like shut them down.
Not have them. Yeah.
Buffy suggests that they should talk to Giles, and Faith shuts that down even harder, saying that they're not bringing anybody else into this, and that it's just going to blow over in a few days. And if it doesn't, that she's going to just head out of town on a freighter.
On a freighter.
Yep. She says it ain't fancy, but it gets you gone. Which is kind of like where I was thinking, it's just like, okay, so, because it's been a while since I watched this episode. I was like, okay, so maybe the mayor angle is that they're trying to get him to run, because he doesn't really care whether they're dead or alive or in jail. He just wants them out of Sunnydale. And that could kind of make sense, but that doesn't actually pan out either. But then we get to a point, and I mean, I might just throw the sound clip in, but like, Faith actually like throws out some truth bombs that are very similar to some truth bombs that Spike shouts out in season 6.
I missed the mark last night, and I'm sorry about the guy. I really am. But it happens. Anyways, how many people do you think we've saved by now? Thousands? And didn't you stop the world from ending? Because in my book, that puts you and me in the plus column.
We help people. It doesn't mean we can do whatever we want.
Why not? The guy I offed was no Gandhi. I mean, we just saw he was mixed up in dirty dealings.
Maybe. But what if he was coming to us for help?
What if he was? You're still not seeing the big picture, B. Something made us different. We're warriors. We were built to kill.
To kill demons. But it does not mean that we get to pass judgment on people like we're better than everybody else.
We are better. That's right. Better. People need us to survive. In the balance, nobody's gonna cry over some random bystander who got caught in the crossfire.
I am.
Neither one is processing it in a very healthy way, and I kind of wish that the approach from like Giles or Angel or somebody was a little bit more of that grounded in reality way, because Faith says some stuff that's kind of grounded in reality, but her absolute denial and not processing her emotions at all is obviously unhealthy. And then Buffy's overburdened self of just internalizing everything to be just the worst possible scenario, and to have this kind of weird expectations laid on both her and Faith. Like, neither one is healthy, but we don't really get the truly grounded of like, okay, you're in a war. Sometimes there's crossfire. Sometimes somebody gets involved that shouldn't have been there, and somebody's life is taken. And like, yes, this is significant because it was her stake plunged into this guy, but you go back through Buffy before this, you go back to Buffy choosing to close the door in Lie to Me and lock all the vampires in there. With, what's his butt? I can't even think of his name. But Ford, yeah. Like, that, while not her herself, killing him, that was a casualty.
Killing him.
That was a casualty because of the crossfire that occurs in this war that she's facing. And that was played with sympathy and understanding of the decision that she had to make at that time. And this is, like, nobody's giving that perspective, and I really want that perspective in here. Just like, Faith's kind of doing it, but she's, quote-unquote, the bad guy, right? We're getting more of the proper message of what happens when you're fighting a war from the bad guy, which we associate that being wrong, right? The bad guy is supposed to be wrong. I don't know. Just feel like there's a lot of things in this episode. I'm just like, I'm real disappointed in everybody. But yeah, so Faith leans into it a little heavier and says, something made us different. We're warriors. We're built to kill. And this is where Buffy draws that line again, saying to kill demons. We don't get to pass judgment on people like we're better than everybody else. And this is where Faith says we are better.
Well, in some ways they are.
Yeah. And like, this is
they
one
are
of those,
literally superheroes.
Yeah. And this is one of those where, like, I think conversations with dead people hit the nose on the head of or hit the nose on the head. That's not even close to the expression, but I'm going to go with it. Buffy has that same feeling that Faith does speak for Buffy in a lot of times, where Buffy does feel like she's superior, but then whenever she feels superior, she feels really bad about it. And I think that's something that's pretty true of Buffy throughout. But like, Faith's just like, I'm better and I feel good about it. And I feel like that might be a healthier attitude.
I mean, it's honest.
Buffy's just real sad. Faith's just like, people need us to survive. Nobody's going to cry over some random bystander. And Buffy's just like, I am. And Faith's just like, well, that's your loss, and she walks away from Buffy. And yeah, it's an interesting story that's unfolding, and I like some of it. I just wish there was another voice in there. I like the two voices from Buffy and Faith, but I wish if you're gonna bring in Giles or you're gonna bring in Angel, which we'll talk about as those voices come in, that you would have had a better voice to mix in there to like really ground it and make sure it was understood why the way Faith processing this is wrong and why she needs help, but not be so focused on, oh, she's unhinged, she could do anything, she could go and kill 10 more people, and like, I mean, I don't like that approach that gets thrown in there. So anyway, this scene, the detective scene, it's really entertaining to watch. I like the cuts back and forth.
Yeah, this is weird.
It's well edited, but other than that, like, what's the purpose of this whole possible arrest going on? Like, it doesn't make sense.
What is the detective's like reasoning to be talking to them? Like, I'm curious what he said when they're like, "Why are you talking to us?" Like,
yeah,
what's, like, how does he explain why he's there?
He says that witnesses put them near the alley, but like
witnesses saw Buffy and Faith.
Yeah, he does say that in the. But he says it real late in the whole conversation. But it's also just like, okay, look at the history of Buffy and the police of Sunnydale.
Yeah,
and like, I feel like if the mayor's end goal was to really get Buffy behind bars, that would be pretty easy to pull off at this point.
I get annoyed when one of his first questions is, maybe you can explain to me what a girl your age is doing out all night. Because I'm like, how about it's none of your business? Like, you're not the mom, you're not the dad.
Yeah.
How about it's none of your business? And there's not a scene where Buffy and Faith like go over their story together. So, like, I find it kind of odd that their story is pretty much exact except what they watched.
They're so in sync.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that, like, he starts with, what time did you get home last night? And Buffy's like, a little past 1. And from the interview earlier, wasn't the scream at like 7 or 8?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they had to have had time to go and hide the body. But, like, it's just an odd, it's an odd progression. Oh, you were out till 1. Ah, well, then you definitely possibly murdered this guy at 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, like, I think the jail conversation is interesting, but, like, the show never acknowledges the fact that a jail couldn't hold Faith. Like, Faith is even like, I gotta get on this freighter, I gotta get out of here, I can't get arrested, I can't, like, spend the rest of my young life in jail. I'm just like, you wouldn't, though. If you didn't want to, you wouldn't. And we know this from watching the series as a whole, but I feel like I would know this knowing how strong a Slayer is.
Yeah, she could leave at any moment.
She could just be out of jail whenever she decides. I mean, she'd be on the run for the rest of her young life, but she wouldn't be in jail. So anyway, the interviews end, the detective leaves Faith's motel, and again we have Angel just lurking, just casually lurking.
He's a lurker.
He's a lurker. And then we're at Willow's room, and Buffy goes to pay a visit.
It's kind of real stilted at first, and Willow's like, you know what? I've been letting things fester, and you and Faith, it's bothering me. And she kind of goes on a little rant, and she's got a point, because she's like, now you keep telling me I wouldn't understand stuff. It's only for Slayers, and I've fought with you and been with you for like 3 years doing stuff, and I'm not cool enough now. And then Buffy starts crying, and Willow, this part is cute.
Yeah,
Willow assumes it's because she was like going off on Buffy in her sweet little Willow way. And it's like, no, don't cry. I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm too hard on you. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But then Buffy is like, Will, I'm in trouble. And we kind of cut and then go back in, and Buffy has told the story and is saying that, and Faith just acts like she doesn't care the way she talks. She doesn't even think she made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it should be she doesn't even think we made a mistake.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and I could understand Buffy having this dialogue if it had already shifted to where Faith tried to throw Buffy under the bus, but it's still like a weird pushing all the blame in one direction kind of situation. I think,
and everyone lets her.
Yeah, and I think part of the okay. So, I think my complaint with Willow earlier is that it's just a writing thing, and I can't decide if this was supposed to increase the gravity of the situation or show like the pettiness of teenage feuds and friendship jealousy and stuff like that. But like, we know what's going on with Buffy and Faith and what they're dealing with. And so to have this juxtaposed with Willow having her feelings hurt because she thinks Buffy's spending more time with Faith than with her just puts Willow in kind of a bad light, even though, like, Willow has some reasons to feel that way and is ignorant of the fact of what's really going on until this point. And then when we see Willow shift back to more of a normal Willow space with Buffy. But, like, to watch this and be like, okay, we've got some serious stuff going on, and we're still doing this bit of, like, friendship jealousy, and I'm kind of over the bit of friendship jealousy, so let's just have them make up already. And so the earlier scene kind of bugged me, because I was just like, I guess it was just to remind people that there was some tension there, to have this tension release here, where Buffy breaks down and explains everything. I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't care about the friendship jealousy when we're dealing with someone accidentally getting, killed during a patrol. It's kind of, I guess, a fallout of the previous episode where they had to tie that up, but the big event of the previous episode was so much bigger than Buffy blowing off Willow that to tie up this loose end seems kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't really just ignore it either. It just, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner in my mind. And this scene plays out funny enough, but it's still kind of like, all right, we know Willow and Buffy are besties. We don't have to draw out this angsty teenage friendship jealousy thing. Willow does point out something here that I think is something that needs to be processed as like a part that could have gone in the right direction, right? Because she says, do you think she's like in shock? And Buffy's like, I don't know. And I'm just like, how do you not know? Obviously.
She's in shock, yeah. She's just, people show shock differently.
Yeah, and like Buffy's just having that disconnect. Because Buffy's obviously in shock too, but she's in like grief-stricken, what have we done shock, and Faith's in denial shock. But it's just something that, like, Willow starts that conversation and it never goes anywhere. And there's a couple of times where that happens in this episode, where they really start talking about, like, what's actually causing Faith to act this way.
And then it disappears.
It disappears, yeah. But Willow tells Buffy that she has to go to Giles, and we cut to the library where Buffy's there, starting to call out to Giles. And Giles comes out of his office. And as she's starting to confess, Faith comes out of Giles' office, and Buffy kind of like changes gears a little bit and says, I've been blowing off my classes, I'm not attending my classes. And this is where it's revealed that Faith decided that she was gonna throw Buffy under the bus and say that.
Yeah, and I don't, why? What made Faith decide to do this? Was she, like, did she just get that desperate and scared when the detective talked to her? Like, I would love, we should have had, like, something to explain to us what Faith was thinking and feeling here.
Because I could,
like, why?
Yeah, I could get to this, but I need to, I don't think that needs to be on the audience. Like, I could figure out.
We need to see how it got to this.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like it came out of nowhere. Like, Faith, why did you wait? I thought y'all were just going to pretend nothing happened, you know? But then this happens, and I mean, the shock on Buffy's face. Yeah. And I remember the first time watching this, I was like, oh my God, what's fixing to happen? Because I thought Buffy was like fixing to be carted to jail or something.
And I feel like it was a decision to make to have this a little bit of a twist where we had that moment of panic of like, oh no, now it's all going to be put on Buffy and Faith's going to get away with it and Buffy's going to be the one to blame, and then Giles immediately shuts that down. And you kind of have that little like cool moment, but it's very out of character for Faith to have made that decision in order to get to that moment.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And Giles, like, he automatically does not believe Faith, and he does a really good job of getting Buffy into his office and like talking to Buffy, like, go to my office now. And Faith leaves, and it's almost like she regrets it.
Yeah.
But then she just leaves. And then Giles immediate is like, I know you didn't do it. I feel like, though, I feel like this was not smart on Faith's part, because if she had went to Wesley instead of Giles, I think this could have been very different. Because I feel like Wesley would have believed her that Buffy had done it.
Yeah.
Because, well, not only is he completely unobservant and not very bright at this part of the show, he doesn't know them as well.
Well, and given the history, I would find it hard to believe that Faith would think that she could persuade Giles to be on anybody's side other than Buffy's. And
Wesley is there. Maybe. Faith knows he's there. They know he's totally incompetent. Incompetent?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why wouldn't she tell him?
Yeah. The logic that kind of just came to me, and I would have totally like gotten on board with if they had shown this in the episode somehow, is that she knew that Giles would protect Buffy or like come up with excuses for Buffy that she didn't believe that she would get excuses for. And so, like, maybe it was a way to get out of it by putting the blame on somebody who she knew they were just going to be like, oh, well, Buffy can do no wrong. We see now why.
And just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, just a slap on the wrist for Buffy, whereas for Faith, she thinks it's going to be jail and who knows what else.
Well, if she had just admitted it, it probably wouldn't have been any of those things.
Yeah.
I still think it's weird that Faith and Buffy are sharing a watcher. There's so many watchers in the Watcher Council. You'd think they would like immediately send another one for there to be two, you know?
Yeah. This is a rough patch. Like, there's not really any logic to Faith's actions, and it would be fine if it was illogical in a way that we followed Faith through the panic and the making a rash decision and understanding her. Yeah, but we don't. We just get her calm and collected, and then she's gonna go and make up a big old excuse for why what happened.
Yeah.
Without us having any of the context. But it's an attempt at putting a column in the, or putting a mark in the column of she's too far gone, which is kind of the direction that the episode kind of deals with the, like, when is she too far gone? Like, at what point can we not save her anymore? Is kind of one of the narratives that... Yeah.
Giles seems to start thinking about it about the time she rats Buffy and tries to blame it all on Buffy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few things that I don't like about what happens in the rest of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
But Giles and Buffy decide to have a meeting with everyone, and by everyone, I mean Willow and Xander, to discuss what to do about Faith. Before that happens, though, we see Wesley, who has eavesdropped on the conversation between Buffy and Giles in the office about Faith, and that will be very important later.
Yeah. Okay. The part that really irks me, so now we're getting Giles into the narrative, right? Who should be, realistically, the truly, like, grounded, I've done a lot of research on Slayers, and I can understand... And he kind of starts that, like, it's tragic, but accidents have happened, and, kind of having that conversation and talk about the council investigates and all of that. But then he has the line, "She's unstable, Buffy. I mean, she's utterly unable to accept responsibility," as like a blanket statement about Faith.
I don't like it as a blanket statement about Faith, but in this situation, it's true. Now, we don't know that she's unstable. Well, we find out later she is. Yeah. But I honestly think that a lot of what made her unstable is what people did to her after this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But she is, she has shown that she's incapable of accepting that what happened was not a good thing.
But
although on the other hand, I don't know that they should have any guilt about it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like she states in her moment with Buffy earlier, she's just like, "I'm sorry about the guy, I really am, but it happens," right? And so she kind of has that more realistic, like, she still needs to process her feelings, but again, I feel like it's framing it like, oh, she's really just off the deep end, like, we can't.
But she's not. She has a point.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's just a different perspective and not a soul, like, everything is so clear-cut, black and white kind of perspective that Buffy wants things to be. Like, Faith has been through enough stuff to understand that bad stuff happens, and sometimes it's just the unfortunate scenario of events that occurred, and it doesn't need to be solely something that she needs to dwell on forever and you know, eat herself up about. And, like, there is aspects... Like, I don't know, like, it's just, the writing in this, where he's just like, she's unable to accept responsibility, and then the next line says, she's in denial, there's no help for her until she admits what happened. Like, okay, so let's figure out how to guide her on that path of acceptance, right? If the idea is, like, Willow talking about her being in shock, Giles talking about her being in denial, then, like, part of her journey should be acknowledging what happened and like dealing with those feelings. And we've seen signs of her starting to get there. Like, you had that little moment in the office earlier where she was like, he came out of nowhere. Like, she's clearly has the ability to sit with those feelings, but she's pushing those back because it's just another situation where I can clearly see that she's processing differently based on what has happened to her in the past and what has continually happened to her all this time. And so she's pushing down things that she feels are going to make her weak or going to make her vulnerable or going to cause her to get hurt. And, like, we've seen consistently that Faith doesn't really open up emotionally. And we're going to have that conversation again where Xander's just like, oh, we had a connection. No, Faith doesn't connect with people emotionally. The closest we've gotten is Faith and Buffy, and Buffy's trying to bridge that gap, but Faith keeps shutting it down because Faith's not wanting to connect emotionally right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to force it on her, but, like, I feel like just constantly bringing it up and saying, like, you have to deal with this is not the way to approach this.
Oh, it's not at all.
And I feel like so many of the bits of dialogue contradict each other. Like, you know, Buffy's very much of the mindset is like, we have to help her deal, and Giles is... The one thing that Giles kind of has, even though it still he doesn't say it correctly, but Giles, I think, is kind of approaching this of, she just needs more time to process.
Mm-hmm.
But he never really clearly states that. He just more states it in, like, I don't want to deal with this right now, kind of like, I don't want to deal, which really, if he had stated it more like, she needs time, then that could have been something that would have brought in another voice, which is not really a voice that I think we've heard. I think everybody just really wanted Faith to have an immediate response to the situation that happened, 24 hours before, 2 days before at this point, maybe? I don't know. Like, this is still very fresh, and everybody's just like, Faith needs to be reacting this way or needs to have this perspective, and nobody's giving her time to get there on her own. I don't know. I'm just really angry at everybody. And it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. I was really angry.
Mm-hmm. So they have their meeting in the cafeteria. It's not really anything except Xander mentions that maybe I should talk to her. We have a connection. And they kind of are like, no, you don't. You don't spend any time with her and everything. And then they argue with him until everyone finally kind of realizes that they slept together. Mm-hmm. Which is really weird because, like, Buffy realizes it and then Giles realizes it. And then they look at Willow. And in the script, it says that amazingly, she is quite calm. And she goes, I don't need to say, oh, I got it before they slept together. Mm-hmm. And I find that, I know that she's hurting and in pain, but I still find that funny. Like, I don't need to say, oh.
Yeah.
And then Buffy kind of explains that, yeah, she doesn't take the guys seriously that she sleeps with, and they're a big joke and everything. And Xander's kind of like, no, he doesn't really believe her, which is evidenced later when he does what he does.
Yeah.
Then they're like, well, Willow, we're going to have you access the mayor's records so we can see what the mayor and Mr. Trick know about. And then they kind of leave it at that. At one point, Buffy says she needs help now, and I owe her that at least. And, well, you're not wrong.
Yeah, yeah, you do. But it is.
I mean, I'm with you. This is not as much of an urgent situation as they think it is.
Yeah, like
if they would just leave her alone for a little while.
Give her a minute to process.
Or support her or something,
Not be like, you have to deal with these emotions. Be like...
Everyone doesn't
honestly,
deal with stuff the same way in the same time.
Even though there's still things wrong with pretty much everything. Like, Xander's approach was actually a little bit better than anybody else's, because he's just like, it was an accident, and I just wanted to know that I'm here for you, and all about, like, I mean, he, of course, is like, doesn't need to be in that position. He doesn't need to be the one talking to her about that, because that's just ridiculous that he thinks he has that connection with her that clearly doesn't exist. He's trying to force something there that doesn't exist.
There's a thing that he does when he first gets there that's really messed.
Mm-hmm. And it's that's the there's definitely issues with what Xander does, but like, he may be the only one that's actually just of the, hey, it was an accident, I understand that it was an accident, and I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and even tries that perspective of talking to her about it.
Yeah, because, like, if Giles had told her, or had her stay and just been like, it happens, it's an accident, y'all are okay, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Or wouldn't have happened until much later. Mm-hmm. Basically, all she wants is someone to have her back. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. Okay, then we see Wesley, and apparently he's in a hotel. He's not got an apartment like Giles does. And he is on the phone, and he's talking to Mr. Travers from the council and says it's an emergency. And so we know what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And then we are at Faith's hotel room, and she's watching TV, and Xander shows up.
Yeah. We miss the Willow sobbing in the bathroom stall, which is just such a such a vibe.
I knew that happened, but it's just such a little part.
Yeah.
I didn't see it when I was going through.
Yeah. I like that, at least, acknowledgement of the fact that earlier in this season they were fully realized their feelings, and that there's still some of that lingering there for Willow at the very least. But also it's kind of implied that Xander has a little moment there when Willow first reacts and says that I don't need to say, oh, I got it before they slept together. And there's just a little bit of moment where you can see Nikki playing it up a little bit, looking at Willow, kind of absorbing the fact that, oh yeah, turns out earlier this year we were like all over each other, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it was her first crush, her childhood love. She's gonna grieve that.
I wish instead of having that little moment with Xander like fidgeting in the library, they just would have left it on Willow a little bit longer. Just let Willow cry for a little bit longer.
Okay, so Xander's at Faith's apartment. He comes in and asks how she's doing. And she's like, well, sick of people asking me that. Mm-hmm. And then there's a little joke about how he can't make anything happen if she doesn't want it to. And Faith says that she'll give him 5 minutes. And is like, I heard what happened. I thought you need a friend. And she's like, so talk to Buffy. She's the one who killed a guy. And Xander goes, yeah, I heard that version. And I'm like, Xander, like Giles was trying to see how far she was going to take it and not let her know that nobody believed her, so she has to go on the defensive. They were trying to, why? You just did exactly what they told you not to do and told them the one thing that they didn't want her to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
I'm really mad at everybody in this episode.
Yeah, it's like, Xander, why? Just listen to people.
Yeah. But he has that connection, Kim.
Yeah.
He has that connection with Faith.
Well, and then they talk about it, and Xander says that she's like a wild thing and doesn't know what she's doing half the time. And Xander says, well, you can try to hurt me, but you need somebody. And it's what happened. It's not your fault. And I'm willing to testify to that. I'll do it in court if you need to.
Yeah.
Which is weird that Xander thinks that that'll actually happen. It's clear he hasn't thought this through.
No.
But also, he said what she should have said. You need somebody on your side right now. And then Faith says, you'd like that, wouldn't you? To get up in front of all your geek pals and talk about how I made you my boy toy for a night. Now, like, what does that have to do with what he's talking about? It has nothing to do with it. Like, why would he be up there saying they had sex? He's going to testify that it wasn't her fault that the guy got killed. And Faith has just kind of turned this around to sex. And I think she's doing it so she does not have to process that he said, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
She's like, fine, I'm going to turn this around into something I can deal with.
Yeah, I have control over. I am going to be the dominant in this conversation, and I'm not going to let you steer me in a direction to acknowledge my feelings. Also, like, I noted for her just kind of lounging in her hotel, like we've seen several times where Faith's just kind of lounging in her hotel, and a lot of times she's just wearing like some sweatpants and a tank top or some shorts or something like that. Like she's a little done up here. She's being a little extra, and I think like part of that might just be another attempt to distract herself. She's a little bit like she's wearing like leather and she's got her hair all pinned up and she's heavily made up. Like she's trying to like find stuff to do to keep herself from thinking. Is the thought that I had when I saw that. I was just like, oh, she's doing one of those. But yeah, she steers the conversation in the direction that she wants to because she knows that she can have power in that. And there's even like, I love the line. And I don't know what my ultimate takeaway from this line other than I love it. But when Xander's like, I came here to help you. I thought we had a connection. And she flings him on the bed and jumps on him. She says, you want to feel a connection. It's just skin. I see, I want, I take, I forget. And I love that line, especially like the it's just skin line. And I don't know what my ultimate takeaway of it, but I think that more than anything shows Xander's trying to make this like an emotional connection because they had sex together, and Faith's like, nah, it's just physical. And it continues to show Faith's hard emotional disconnect where she decides that. She decides she doesn't want to get into that emotional space. Again, because anytime she seems to do that, it falls apart in her face. But like, I think a lot of this is set up really well for us to be endeared to the mayor because he does offer so much of that support that Faith's been needing for so long. But yes, Faith gets very aggressive, starts to like pull Xander's shirt up, starts kissing him, licking him, biting his lip, saying that she could make him scream, and then saying, I could make you die, and then starts to choke him while continuing to be sexual in nature, but then leans more into the just choking him and like leans up and seems to be just about to strangle Xander to death. And Angel's there lurking.
He's there again.
Yep. Comes in and I guess knocks her out with a baseball bat, which I'm not sure why he's toting around a baseball bat, but we see him with it in the next scene, so I assume that's what he used. Yep. So then we get to, as the DVD blurb says, Angel realizes that he must help her see the error of her ways. We're starting this journey. How we feel about this?
This is a journey that, like, pretty much continues until Buffy ends.
Yeah, and I love the Angel-Faith relationship. I think it's phenomenal. But God, this is awful. This episode is awful starting off. this friendship that I love so dearly. And I don't know, like, what's the idea of Angel's approach? Because, I mean, it's, like, framed in a way that it would have worked, right? If Angel could have continued on this approach that he was doing, that it could have worked if the council didn't get involved, right? That's kind of how it's framed in the episode, even though I'm not sure I agree with that. But, like, gets her, he chains her up, he talks about how he doesn't trust her, and that she's not big on trust and all, like, that trust is used a lot. And, like, Faith's just completely shutting him down. And, like, even when he goes and talks to Buffy, he's just like, you may not get her back. Like, this, I'm just gonna tell you right now, you may just have to, you know, deal with the fact that she's evil and corrupt and the worst now. And I'm just like, wow!
Like, yeah, it escalates so fast. Like, one accidental thing and she's evil now because she felt that power. Like, what? She's not a vampire angel.
Yeah, that's a weird, like, the whole comparison that he makes later on. We're not even to the part where I'm really gonna start venting on, like, what is your strategy here, Angel? Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. But, like, so a back and forth here. Angel says, I just want to talk, and Faith replies, that's what they all say, and then it's just, let me stay the night, won't try anything. And I did write in my notes here, I feel like it's never fully confirmed, but it's very heavily implied that Faith suffered a fair amount of sexual abuse before being called. Yeah. Which shows, like, the reasons of why she has such a hard time being emotionally connected to people that she's romantic with. But, like, then he goes and walks over to Buffy, he's just like, God, it's like talking to a wall, and I'm just like, did you not just hear what she said? Like, you're not that dumb, Angel. I'd get more out of a wall. It's just like, she pretty much just admitted to, like, oh yeah, but, you know, you say you just want to talk, but, like, I've been through this routine before, and I've gotten, like, years of abuse in my history. Like, that's what I took away from that, Angel. I don't know what you thought that wall said. I'm just like, he's just complaining about her, and I'm just like, you literally chained her up and told her you don't trust her. What do you expect her to just open up and be like, I'm sorry, I see the error of my ways now? I'm just like, what is your plan? Ugh. So yeah, the DVD blurb. You must help her see the error of her ways. He's doing a great job. I'm really upset with everybody in this episode. So yeah, Buffy asks if Angel will keep trying, and this is where Angel's just like, you know, I don't want you to get your hopes up. She may never come back from this. She may not want our help, and she killed a man. That changes everything for her. And it's like, she's got a taste for it now. And I'm just like, Angel, it's not the same.
No, she's a human. It's
not the journey that you went on. It's not like a 1-to-1 there. But yeah, like, I also just don't like the nature of the phrasing, we're just getting started. When Buffy's like, you'll keep trying, right? He's like, yeah, sure, we're just getting started. I'm just like, this isn't an interrogation or a torture session that you're starting here. Like, what are you doing? We went from an earlier scene where we're just like, we don't need an intervention because she's not going to react well to that. So instead, Angel chains her up and starts yelling at her. I love Angel and Faith's relationship. It's great. It's one of my favorites. We're at the mayor's office. They see where the Slayers got in, and they're just like, how did that happen? And all the audience is like, we don't know either. They got in, it was easy, and the mayor's just like, well, now they know that we're, you know, not good. That's a thing that's out now. And that they don't have enough evidence to put him away. And I'm just like, it wouldn't make any difference if you did. And basically that they're going to have a more efficient solution setting up that final fight. And then we're back to Angel just talking about murdering people like it's the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
He's just glorifying it to, like, he's like, you feel like a god, right? Isn't that such a good feeling? I'm just like, what is your strat? Yeah. Oh gosh. And like, even like the comparison, he's like, we're a lot alike and stuff like that. No, like, none of this, it's not the same.
It's not. And
It's not.
like Faith has never really liked Angel,
Yeah.
you know?
But, like, he even has this moment where he's just like, a professional couldn't have helped me. It stopped when I got my soul back, my human heart. And I'm just like, yeah, Faith has those things. Faith has a soul. So, like, are you saying that since she did this with the soul that she's worse? I mean, you did that kind of stuff with the soul too. Let's backtrack a little bit, because you said it stopped with that, and we know that's not true. But yeah, he just kind of goes along, and then he's just like, but you're not a god. You're not much more than a child. Going down this path will ruin you. You can't imagine the price of true evil. And I do quite like this retort from Faith, where she's like, I hope evil takes MasterCard.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's just pushing her towards this. And here's her just flat out saying, you know what? If everybody's gonna push me this direction, might as well just start embracing the evil.
Start being evil. Everyone's saying that.
Like, what is... Oh, it's like, this is what it is. It's like, you catch your kids smoking, so you make them smoke an entire pack of cigarettes. That's the Angel approach right here.
Yeah.
I just figured it out why I'm so mad about this. He brings trust into the conversation again. He talks about, like, you know, I used to think that people just hurt each other, and then I got here and realized that, you know, there's people who genuinely want to do the right thing, and they make mistakes, and they fall, but they keep carrying, they keep trying. If you can trust us, Faith, this can all change. You don't have to disappear into the darkness. So, like, trust has been mentioned several times in this back and forth with Angel and Faith. First, Angel says, I don't trust you, and then says that Faith isn't big on trust, and then says, but if you can trust us, we can change this for you. And I'm just like, oof. And also, why was this approved by, like, everybody anyway? Because we know that Angel's pretty unstable at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he spent a century in a hell dimension. He recently tried to take his own life. Like, he's pretty unstable. So let's take this other person that we're labeling as unstable and let this other unstable person chain her up and try to reason with her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So, to add insult to injury, the Watchers Council shows up. It just keeps going from bad to worse, doesn't it?
Yep. Wesley comes in and he's like, by order of the Watchers Council, I'm taking you to England. Mm-hmm. You will go to trial. And I'm like,
road trip.
Seriously, Wesley? Like, Wesley doesn't even try to help her or do anything at all. He's just like, yeah, you're going back to England.
Yeah.
Like, Wes, I hope you got her a passport.
Honestly, even though the episode really frames it as like Wesley was the ultimate cause of her turn, like, you know, later on when Buffy's yelling at Wesley, is like, you pushed her over the edge, it was you. I'm just like, no, it was a lot of events that happened before Wesley got involved. And honestly, like, Wesley was the most in character and made the most sense. Like, he's the Watcher of the Slayer, and this is Watchers Council protocol, and he lives and dies for that. Like, that... But, like, this makes sense. The part that broke my heart is that he undoes the chains and then puts his own latches on her, right? But she's just, like, free roaming, right? She could easily overpower them in this situation, but she doesn't, because she's just, like, in such shock that this is happening. Like, it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And she just isn't fighting back at this point. She gets back to where she's fighting back. But this is another moment of, like, a vulnerable side of Faith, where she's just like,
what are y'all doing?
The Watchers Council, they're supposed to help me. I'm the Slayer. And then they're like, we're taking you into custody and you're gonna be judged. And she's just like, oh. And she's not even processing it enough to fight back at this point. Mm-hmm. So that was a moment. And, yeah, they're in the van. Faith's chained up. Wesley is apologizing for the extreme measures, but it's rather extreme circumstances. And he kind of, like, frames it like that they're there to help him and stuff like that, even though he did mention that it was very much like reading someone their rights when he got her. Like, it was not approached in a way that made sense. And, you know, she is currently being restrained, so there's that. And then he sees that she's fiddling with her restraints, and so he tells the other Watchers Council member there to go ahead and tighten them, and that's when she kicks him down and puts her boot up against the side of his head and tells Wesley that he has to unlock her or she's gonna pop the guy's head like a grape. There is an interesting... there is an interesting, like, show that Wesley has more empathy than other members of the Watchers Council have shown to be having, because we saw Quentin Travers just, like, write off the deaths of, in Helpless, and then in the next season, we see when Buffy's in Faith's body, she kind of pulls a similar maneuvers, just like, you let me go or I'm gonna kill this guy, trying to get out. And they're just like, well, sorry, and just walk off. So Wesley isn't quite as hardened as some people in the Watchers Council are, at least. And he sets her free and says, Faith, you can't keep running, as he grabs a wrench to try to get the upper hand, which he obviously doesn't, and she jumps out of the back of the van and makes her getaway. And then there's like a great cut of Buffy coming to the mansion and Angel just wriggling. Angel's ability to like deal with threats is so funny. Sometimes he could just be like, I'm gonna take on 8 vampires and not have any issue, and other times just like 4 guys and one of them with a cross. It's like, nope, too much.
So we have everyone in the library, and Angel is saying the new Watcher had a couple of guys, and Giles is like, yeah, she's on her way to England. And Giles says they'll lock her up for a good long while, which doesn't make sense because earlier he told Buffy it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a big deal. But now they're automatically going to lock her up.
Yeah.
And Buffy's like, so we head them off to the airport. We'll stop them. And Willow's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Because she murdered someone and then she hurt Xander, so maybe she should be in jail. And then Buffy says that Angel was getting somewhere with her. She was opening up. But I did not get the impression that she was opening up.
No.
At all.
Maybe Angel was just really optimistic, and on their way to the library, he was just like, I was really talking about how awesome murder is, and she was really responding to that. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. She starts to say that they can stop Wesley, and Wesley walks in at that moment and is like, that's no longer an issue. She got away. And Angel says, well, first you terrorize her, and then you put her back on the streets. I'm like, you had her chained up in your mansion, Angel. Come on. Like, everyone's trying to chain her up.
Yeah. And
like he hit her with a baseball bat and then chained her up in his mansion.
Yes. I mean, oh, God. And, like, this is the part that really, I know, guys, I'm a Wesley stan. I will always be a Wesley stan. This is my true self coming out. But, like, these people, again, earlier we were talking about Buffy shifting blame on Faith. Everybody here's just like, it wasn't me who made Faith go off the...
Yeah.
It was Wesley did that. That was all Wesley.
Now, I can't stand this Wesley, but I'm a huge fan of Wesley and Angel Wesley.
Yeah.
But not this Wesley.
I love every version of Wesley.
Wesley said he was trying to save her, and Buffy's like, you probably destroyed her. Okay. Then they all decide to look for her. I want to point out that during this scene when they're all talking, it says in the script, and I don't remember this happening in the episode, but it says in the script that at one point Xander is supposed to try to talk.
Yeah, I don't think it happened in the episode.
And his voice is like completely shot from being choked by Faith.
Oh.
It shows him in the scene, but I don't think it shows him trying to talk and like showing where he can't talk.
Yeah.
But apparently he has no lines in this scene because he's supposed to be voiceless because of what happened.
Yeah. And I think, like, I can still get there with where, you know, Willow talks earlier about, like, maybe she should be locked up. But I think, again, like, if you had a little moment where Willow and Xander had a moment post-choking where she's just like, oh, my God, what happened? Oh, no. Like, really, like, showing that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I could be fully on board with the Willow just like, let's lock her up. But for me, without having that and her just saying, you know, like, I kind of have an issue with Faith sharing my people. Like, that's the reason, you know.
Yeah.
Again, it like falls back to that petty friendship jealousy stuff rather than literally like my closest best friend, first love of my life, Xander was nearly choked to death by her. I think that should have been leaned into heavier to justify why Willow was so like, I totally buy that Willow would be like, maybe she belongs behind bars if she had been like leading off with, she nearly killed Xander. That's the part that Willow would focus on. Basically, everybody blames Wesley, and then they decide to split up and go look for Faith.
Which does not make sense at all. Why are we splitting up to go look for her when we think she's so dangerous and evil?
Yeah. Like, how did we get here? This turn is so fast. It's kind of like make me your villain vibes. Like, if you're gonna put all of this on me, then I might as well just be another one of the Black Hats, right? Like, they're so heavily leaning on this that she's just like, well, guess I'm gonna join in with the mayor now, because they all expect that of me anyway, so might as well get some swag out of it, because I'm sure he'll at least pay me. She was definitely forced down this path in a way that makes me very upset with everybody in this episode. I do enjoy this next scene, though. Mostly because, again, I'm just like, yeah, Faith, right on. I'm on your side.
Yeah. So Buffy finds Faith at the docks. And Faith is like, you don't give up, do you? And she says, not on my friends. And Faith says, yeah, because we're friends. And Buffy's like, we could be. And I'm like, well, Buffy, you haven't really tried much until now. You've had almost a year to be Faith's friend, and you haven't at all. And Faith is like, well, I don't want to be like you. And Buffy's like, no one's asking you to, but you can't do this. And then Faith pretty much talks about how, yeah, I'm right. You're like this. We don't need the law. And Buffy's like, no.
See, you need me to toe the line because you're afraid you'll go over it, aren't you, B? You can't handle watching me live it my own way, having a blast because it tempts you. You know it could be you. There's my girl.
Yeah.
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 Me too.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it a lot. No,
and then Buffy's like, no, we're not doing this. And Faith's like, yeah, no, let's do it. And then a giant overhead cargo crate starts to fall. And Buffy pushes Faith out of the way, saves her, and lets the crate fall on her instead. On Buffy. Which is very Buffy-like. Like, no one's surprised that she does this. And Faith starts fighting vampires. There's Trick and a bunch of other vampires there.
This fight scene is just really roughly edited. It's really like, and I don't know like why this stood out to me. Like the first time I just kind of watched it and didn't even really think about it. But the second time, so there's the fight scene, right? Buffy's in a daze. Faith is fighting the vampires. Buffy starts to get up. Faith starts to like get rid of the vampires while Buffy's got Trick on her, right? That's the fight. But in this fight, so Faith throws one of them off into the water. And then she knocks one, and it's presumed that she knocks him completely, like, into a barrel. But you just kind of see her knock him to the side, and then him starting to, like, tip into the barrel a little bit. And then she dusts the other one, and then it cuts to Buffy and Trick. And then it cuts back to Faith, and literally this vampire is standing upright with the barrel completely over him. Like he's in some kind of stealth video game where he's like ducked down in the barrel and he sneaks, and he ducks down in the barrel. He's like, it's like that kind of comically over him. And then he just kind of like throws it off and goes, rah, and Faith stakes him. But like the editing in it is so funny because we barely see him even interact with the barrel before we get the cut of him throwing the barrel off and going, rah! And I was just like, was he hiding under that barrel the whole time? Like, wait, I gotta go back and watch this. Was that Mr. Trick's ace in the hole, was just having one under a barrel?
Apparently.
Because it was just like, where did he come from? But it wasn't clipped together right, and it's real funny to watch. Okay. But anyway, yeah, so Faith takes care of her three while Buffy's like regaining her composure, and then Trick gets a hold of her and handles her pretty easily and goes in for the bite, saying, I hear once you tasted Slayer, you never want to go back. It's an interesting line to give him there. And then he goes in for the bite, but then he like springs back and he's just like, oh no, well, that's no good at all. And it explodes in the dust. And then we have Faith behind him holding the stake and a awkward like staring back at each other for a long, like really awkward angle on Buffy. Yeah, so I like the little like trick exploding in the dust to reveal Faith. I think it's a callback to another Faith shot, but I can't remember what that Faith shot is. But there's another Faith shot that I seem to remember. I think it's maybe maybe in her first episode, she stakes a vampire and saves Buffy there, or something. Mm-hmm. But there's another similar staking where a stake in Faith is revealed behind, if I remember correctly.
I think it's in the first episode.
Yeah. I'm not sure when it is.
But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's something somewhere that I'm remembering. But also, it's just like a nice little visual aid for the like twist at the end of Faith taking Trick's place, of having Trick there, and then he turns to dust, and then Faith's there. It's a nice little, very, very short-lived foreshadow, but it is there. But yeah, I can't get over the barrel vampire. I strongly encourage everybody to go watch the barrel vampire. He's really fun. And we have our moment of silence for Mr. Trick, please. Thank you all for doing that for me, because that is a character I am sad to see go.
Yeah, Mr. Trick was funny.
Yeah, he added a little bit of fun commentary that we normally don't get in the Buffyverse.
Yeah.
So then after this, like, Buffy thinks, oh, we're all good. Like, she has this conversation with Giles, and she's like, she could have left me to die, Giles, but she didn't. I'm not going to give up on her. And Giles is like, okay, well, yeah.
We'll just let her go back to her apartment, and everything's normal again. Like, what?
But, like, if you
Wesley's
go back,
not trying to take her in anymore.
Yeah,
and
apparently we don't have to worry about that anymore. Everything's good.
Yeah, Angel's not trying to get through to her anymore. She's just...
Yeah, now we're giving her space. After we've really messed her up. Now after we've really messed her up and basically told her that she can't rely on any of us for any kind of support, that's when we're going to give her space. Not when she's just trying to deal with something that was a very emotional thing that she hasn't accepted yet. No, we're gonna wait until after we've chained her up and hauled her around, and like going back to the conversation right before that fight, I'm just like, really? Because, like, Faith's leaning into it, but, like, in that, like, Buffy's trying to, like, appeal to Faith, but she also says, no, Faith, you're sick. She gets mad at her over bringing Angel into this, and I'm just like, you literally were there helping Angel keep her chained up. You approved that situation. Angel's in this. Like, there's so many things in that conversation. I'm just like, Buffy, stop. And now you're like, I really think, like, I'm not going to give up on her. I think she's going to come around. And I'm just like, why? Why would she? You've done so many things wrong.
Yeah.
So
we don't get to see any kind of, like, I'm annoyed that it ends with Faith saving her, and then we don't get to see their conversation or them leaving or anything.
No closure. Like, again, if we just had more context, we just have these weird, like, jumps of, like, Faith deciding to tell Giles, Willow deciding that Faith belongs behind bars, Buffy deciding that Faith is on the right path, with no actual, like, scenes showing those emotional moments. It's just quick jump to, this is what the characters think now, or this is what the character's doing now. And I'm just like, but why? Why are they doing that? This one, however, at the end, totally get. Don't need anything setting up why Faith came to this conclusion. Faith showing up at the mayor's office saying, you sent your boy to kill me. He's dust. I guess that means you have a job opening. Makes perfect sense to me. I don't need any setup for that. Because that one's actually built up fairly decently. Faith realizing that the mayor's a black hat. Faith taking out his supposed, like, you know, right-hand man. Faith being told again and again that she's on this path, you know, them assuming that she's on the path of darkness, that she's on the path of
she's
ultimate
like, okay.
evil, and she's just like, okay, all right, well,
You really want me to? I will.
yeah, at least I'm gonna get my cheddar, and that's the smart move. Turns out the cost of evil is getting paid a lot of money to be treated nicely by this guy that sure has not the best intentions for the world, but still.
He trusts her awful fast, though, and she trusts him awfully fast.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that. Like
I think it's funny that instead of just, I'm assuming Buffy walked her home or something, and they talked. But instead of leaving and going to the mayor's office, instead of leaving and going to get on a freighter and leave town, just get gone, she goes to the mayor's office. Mm-hmm. She makes a conscious decision to be evil.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that she is wanting revenge on everything they've done to her, and especially in this episode.
Oh yeah. I feel
otherwise she'd just leave.
Yeah, I feel like this is the episode where they set her on this path. They and she would have just left. Buffy going to talk to her again. Buffy says some pretty harsh things in that conversation. And that's just, you can see that there's still conflict in there, but Faith's also, I guess, could be framed as being street savvy enough and opportunistic enough to realize an opening when she sees one. And I love the moment here between these two, because obviously they're both enemies and not trusting of one another in this first exchange, right? But they're both completely aware that they can take the other one, right? Because Faith is the Slayer, so she's just this is just a dude, so I don't have to be worried at all. And the mayor is just yeah, she's a Slayer, but I'm invincible, and she doesn't know that, so I don't have to worry at all.
True.
So there's just this moment.
I meant more along the lines of her being a double agent and telling secrets.
Yeah, I don't know how that progresses, because I haven't watched this season forever, so I don't know how that. But I like this initial exchange of just them both being so confident because they know that there's nothing the other one can do to them, even though Faith really doesn't know what the mayor is. I probably should have thought of that.
Yeah, she just knows he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
And hopes that he can protect her.
Yeah. But Faith is also of the mindset of, the face that they're showing is not their actual face kind of philosophy. So, I am interested to see where does the actual affection come in? Where does the true trust and affection come in, and how fast is that? How rapid is that? Because I feel a lot of stuff in this episode is a little too rapid for me. We went to some big extremes really fast and forced Faith down this path that I don't think was the smoothest way of telling this story. This is basically just the episode where I'm really disappointed in everybody. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I'm a little bit mad.
Well, which one's next? Is it...
I want to say Doppelgangland, but I may be wrong.
Is that it? Is that one the next? Oh, and then enemies when they find out that Faith is not on their side.
Yeah. I really thought that there was more time between our revelation that Faith is...
Yeah, it's just one episode.
And when they realized, nope, it's just, yeah. It happens real quick. I had it in my mind it was at least 2 or 3 episodes, and nope. Next episode is Doppelgangland, which is a fan favorite. It's some people's actual, favorite episode. And I'm excited because we get perhaps the best Buffy character back, which is Vamp Willow. And that'll just make me feel so much better after this episode, where I just felt like a big old negative Nancy the entire episode. Be I really don't like anybody. I really hate everything that's happening. Which you're not really supposed to like what's happening. But also, I want to still like my characters by the end of the episode. But yeah, that's going to be next time. And this has been our podcast for this time. And we thank you all so much for listening. And this is where we say... Bye.
Bye.